Hello dear friends and welcome to the GeoCoast. Today I'm meeting John Heinz, a legendary man who kayaked around Ireland. Hello John.
Hi, nice to meet you Maxime. Thanks for coming to Kinsale.
And so John, like you're one of these lucky people who actually combine their hobby with their work. So how did you end up doing this?
Yeah, so suppose Maxime, I started out as a boy in County Limerick and got involved in kayaking and really got inspired by that sport and continued that as a teenager, and as I became an adult I realised that you can actually work as a kayaking instructor. And throughout my career I've taken various different training and qualifications and travelled all over the world to develop my kayaking knowledge and skills, and ultimately in recent years now I've taken over as Director of Kinsale Outdoor Education Centre, so I spend my days facilitating other people's kayaking now.
So like for instance, like how many people you trained this summer?
Oh, that's a good question Maxime. So this summer in our summer camps we would have had over 1,000 people involved in various different activities with us, primarily young people but a lot of adults too, and gaining training and certification to be safer out on the water.
So tell me more about your kind of current activity. Like, so you said you're the head of the Outdoors Education Centre, yeah?
That's right, yeah.
Which is based in Kinsale, yeah?
Yeah, so...
And what type of activities you cover?
Yeah. So in Ireland we have 11 outdoor education centres. They're state funded and supported, but here in Kinsale we focus mainly on sailing, powerboating, kayaking of all different disciplines, surfing, and a lot of things like campcraft and orienteering. And we use that as a medium for personal development for people, but also then to gain some skills training and certification. But it's a really powerful tool for people to develop themselves and appreciate the outdoors, develop their mental and physical health as well.
And I guess you're not working there by yourself, like you have few people working for you. Like.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have a great team of staff in our outdoor centre. We have experts across all those sports, but during the summertime we could have up to nearly 30 people this summer helping to make that operation safe and fun for everybody.
And are you still teaching yourself, or are you only kind of in charge of the operation?
Yes, it's very important that I continue to keep my own skills refreshed and relevant. So for example, this weekend now I'm teaching a level 3 sea kayaking skills course. So yeah, probably 80% of my work is admin at this stage and 20% out on the water delivery.
And John, you mentioned kind of level, whatever certificate, like, so for people who are not familiar, can you explain the system? Like in driving license, you can have B category, C category, so what's the story with kayaking?
Yeah, I suppose what's important is that maybe as a pretext to that not all outdoor experiences have to be governed by certification. The freedom to explore, to appreciate the environment, there's a lot of powerful learning opportunities in that. But in order to do that from time to time, we need to provide certified training and certification from the various national governing bodies. So we have Irish Sailing to govern sailing sports, Canoeing Ireland to look after all the paddle sport disciplines. So we work with a range of national governing bodies to deliver their training and certification.
So what certification is in kayaking?
Oh, in kayaking? So you can go from a beginner at level 1 standard for an introductory experience right up to level 5, where one would be highly qualified in advanced conditions and would have elements of leadership or instruction in those awards as well. And that would span across a range of disciplines for sea kayaking, whitewater river kayaking, open canoes, and more recently stand-up paddleboarding.
And is the certification linked to a particular type of kayak, like sit on top, sit inside?
Yes, yeah. So each of those disciplines have their own unique craft, but there's a lot of freedom for people to explore within that.
And actually to become an instructor, what level of certification do you need to have? Is there any requirement to have a certification? Or
yes,
it's not?
Yeah. So even right down to insurance and pay scales require instructors to have certain qualifications in order to work in that field. So it is regulated and governed in that respect. But yes, you need to work on your own personal kayaking skills first. Get yourself to kind of an intermediate standard of level 3 minimum. And once you've done that, you can work on your first aid, safeguarding qualifications, and then attend an instructor course. But after that, there's a period of time where you consolidate your experience and gain some teaching hours before returning for assessment and qualifying.
And in your outdoors education center, I guess like you're not teaching only about kayaking. You said like you're teaching about other activities as well. So what are those?
Yeah, so let's take powerboating first. That's a really important body of work that we do. So on behalf of Irish Sailing, we provide a range of powerboating certified courses. The National Powerboat Certificate is probably our biggest seller, and that is effectively your driving license for using an outboard motor on the water safely and looking after others under your care. But then you can go to higher standards where you begin to drive higher powered boats and indeed rescue other sailing boats or kayaks on the water. So it's a very good scheme. We're very proud to be associated with it. And then the sailing scheme works in a similar way. You have all the beginners and introductory awards right up to advanced sailing skills and instructor awards.
So you do powerboating, sailing and kayaking? Yeah?
They're the main water sports, but we also do surfing and co-steering. And then on the land-based activities, we have rock climbing, orienteering, and then we also focus a lot on campcraft skills, so teaching people to look after themselves when they're out on an expedition, appreciate the environment, and to do so in a sustainable way.
And are you mainly focusing on teaching kids or adults as well?
Yeah, that's sometimes a misconception about our work. Yes, we do largely work with children and teenagers, and in fact, we take a lot of pride in that because they are the future leaders of our generation, and we need them to look after the environment. But we also work a lot with adults too, but more so in the autumn, winter and the springtime.
And the powerboat course, is it similar to the one run by the Irish lifeboats? Are you kind of a competitor or are you working together with them?
No, the lifeboats is a separate entity altogether, and they would have their own in-house training systems that operate to a very high standard. So certainly if somebody wanted to join the lifeboat and they had experience of powerboating, it would help in their understanding and training.
And is your centre attracting only people from County Cork, let's say, or do you have people visiting from other parts of Ireland or maybe from overseas? Do you have some groups coming from abroad?
Yeah, we're quite fortunate being based in Kinsale. It's a town that's synonymous with tourism. But our own local population support the centre greatly. We've had children start summer camps at age 5, and as they grow each year, they ultimately might become an instructor when they're 17 or 18. So that's a great facility to have for people to grow. But a lot of people come from around the county of Cork to us, and sometimes outside. And then because of the Wild Atlantic Way over recent years, we now have a bigger influx of foreign visitors that sometimes take part in our activities.
And do people just join you for a day, or some courses spread through a few days?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier on, the expeditioning side of things is very important to us. We believe in that as a model for changing behaviours and helping people to develop personally. So yes, we have multi-day expeditions where people can camp with us, but a lot of our activity is daytime only.
So, John, you've been kind of involved in coastal tourism for nearly 25 or even more years. And how have you seen the coastal tourism developed in Ireland over this period of time?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic to explore. So I suppose when I was a teenager and first getting involved in kayaking, it was very much a minority or an underground sport then. Obviously the team sports were the main ones. But as people began to travel outside Ireland and to other adventure destinations, maybe like Canada and New Zealand, they became aware of these sports, but also for the potential within the Irish coastline to develop these activities. So that's what happened to me. From my travel, I decided to set up a surf school and sea kayaking tours, as did some of my other colleagues like Jim Kennedy in West Cork with Atlantic Sea Kayaking. And so we began to grow these opportunities. And then more recently, Fáilte Ireland have done some wonderful work. So the genesis for the Wild Atlantic Way was the gathering. I think it was in 2013 or 14. And that influx of added tourism and influence on the coastline really did sort of capture people's imagination for coastal tourism. And so the Wild Atlantic Way in its short life has been a huge success for maritime-based coastal tourism.
And the education, like Kinsale Outdoor Education Centre, when was it launched, when it started?
So,
as you said, there's a network of centres throughout Ireland. So,
yes.
And I guess it was a government's initiative to set them up?
Actually, he was a local man by the name of John Thulier. He's since retired. I meet him regularly here in the town. But he was a man of the sea. He had a deep passion for sailing and traditional maritime skills like navigation, knots and so on. And he came up with the idea to develop an outdoor education centre in Kinsale in the very late 1970s. So the centre opened in 1980 and has received state support since then. So there's a legacy over a number of generations now of great people being trained and facilitated to work in the outdoors.
Oh, so did it in a way set up the trend to develop other educational centres in Ireland? Because you mentioned there's a few centres around Ireland.
Well, that goes back maybe to the early 1970s. In fact, the year I was born, I think the National Centre in Wicklow was formed. So in the 70s, there was an increasing awareness of the power of outdoor education to develop people.